just because they can.
Look, can you imagine Mr. B and Bernie running a half mile to see who becomes president?
Dude, they would throw out
Naked?
so many hips.
Dude, Bernie's probably bouncing him off his knees like a hack.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine freaking the Joe Biden and Bernie just like wrestling naked, just slapping each other's sides, trying to grapple, trying to hit each other?
No.
Yeah, you just hear the...
What's the knot?
No, I can't imagine it.
A lot of chafing and baby powder in there.
That 100% sounds like something he would do. He would challenge someone to that. You want to take
suck
this
his fingers
outside?
after he does it.
If you want to beat Joe Biden, you just got to rub his leg hair.
If you want to entice Joe Biden, you need to be a female, right?
Little girl.
Know what I'm saying?
A relative. Blood relative.
Yeah,
a relative and little.
Yep.
Well, possibly big. He's done full-size women, too.
He definitely
Allegedly.
full-size women.
As opposed to the not full-size women, the half-size.
Oh.
Half size. The pint size.
Get out of here, you little people.
Got the half gallon of people.
Well, let me
He
just
actually
America.
has sexual assault allegations against him come out today.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
There
it
we
happened
go.
back in 1993. It's a long time to wait to talk about it.
I see, like, he actually went up Donald Trump. He grabbed him.
It's called digitally assault, where you put your fingers, the digits
That's what I'm saying.
in a girl.
What?
Trump grabbed him. Biden went knuckle deep.
Biden went inside. Trump pinched him.
Wow.
Spread them out. So I have a tale of the first corruption in the Olympics,
Okay.
which happened in the 211th Olympic.
Whoa.
Emperor Nero. Anybody know that guy?
Yes.
Yeah, he was crazy, right?
Emperor
Turn it in
Nibiru?
sideways. This is zero.
Nibiru?
No, Nero.
Was he the one that burned down a lot of stuff?
Yeah, he was crazy.
Yeah.
He caused the Olympic to take place 2 years too late for some reason. And he also added in a musical contest, like a singing competition,
Okay.
and a chariot race with 10-horse chariots.
That's
Whoa.
pretty badass.
But it was rigged that way he could win all 6 events and become the most successful Olympic of that time.
Well, yeah, you got to win,
But
you got to be in it to win it.
yeah, but he rigged
Yeah.
it so he did win.
Like
Wait
this
till
guy.
you
This is
hear-
like modern politician stuff.
Wait
Yeah.
till you hear what Commodus did and Caesar did to rig
He flushed
their-
the toilet.
to rig
Emperor
that
Commode.
stuff. Emperor
That's what I remember
Commode.
that from school.
Commodus.
Emperor Commode.
Is that how you say that? Is it Commodus?
No, it's
No,
Commodus.
it's Commodus.
Okay.
You can-
It's Commodus.
You can refer to him as Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh.
Joaquin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Matt. Yep.
So the last Olympic Games took place in 393 AD. Pretty much anything that had any ties to Olympics was destroyed. All the statues of Zeus were destroyed by what was his name? Emperor Theodosius.
Oh.
For some reason, this was a time period where the Romans were trying to implement the Christian philosophy into the Roman Empire, and obviously the Olympics at that time were pagan.
Yes.
Because they were honoring Zeus and all the gods. So they pretty much got rid of the Olympics.
Right.
And then it wasn't until 1896 is when the modern day Olympics took place, and they were reinstated in Athens. And then it's
That's
been going on
really-
every 4 years since.
That's really crazy that the Romans accepted Christianity because they hated Christians for so long.
Yes.
So when did they just see that there was a shift in the tide
They started converting too. Like there was an emperor that was converted to Christianity.
Yes. Yeah. And then that's where you can go back in history, and that's where like Constantinople and all that jazz gets brought into it. But the Christian population started increasing, so they had to take notice of it at this point. They were pretty much all Christians, I think. That's pretty much it. It was just a general outline of. I just want to lay a foundation for the Olympics. They started in 776 BC. They were disrupted in 393 AD, and then brought back in 1896. And they've been going every 4 years. The 4 years plays into the Olympic years for Zeus.
All right. I have all my stuff, it talks about the Roman games, and it's going to primarily talk about Caesar, a little bit of Caesar,
Little Caesar,
Commodus, Little Caesar, Commodus, and then a certain type of people, and they were, I'm having trouble kind of pronouncing this, but they were called bestiati, and they are basically the animal trainers of those times. They were the ones who put the magic on, the show on. They were the magicians. No one ever talks about how the lions came to be and how they were trained to, as soon as that lion hit the arena, they just charged for humans. And that takes a lot of skill to get a lion to do that, surrounded by 10,000 people, screaming 10,000 people. Like, it's, lions aren't naturally supposed to do stuff like that. Their first instinct isn't to run at humans. Their instinct is to hide.
Yeah, well, they probably starved it and stuff too, like made it mad.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah,
they used the male lions too, didn't they? Because they looked cooler.
I don't think they definitely had their bread and butter animals, and their weaker animals they would put them out, and those animals were killed just to show that the animals could be killed, because they always wanted the gladiators, and it was really the slaves and the soldiers that would run away from the army that disbanded. They were the ones who were like the halftime show. The gladiators were the real show. These halftime shows were the slaves and the military guys. They were the ones who were fed to lions and bears, and sometimes they would allow these weaker animals into the arena and would allow them to get killed just to show the other slaves, like, hey, it's possible for you to live through this. Well, they would just always release 5 lions that would go out there and fucking, chomp down on this dude's head and pull him apart, 5 different ways, and the crowd fucking loved it. I'm going to just kind of set the tone a little bit, and then we'll get into the full facts. The enormous arena was empty, save for the seesaws. That's a literal seesaw that you would find in a public park. Save for the seesaws and dozens of condemned criminals who sat naked upon them, hands tied behind their backs, unfamiliar with the recently invented contraptions known as the pechora. That's what they called the seesaw. These men tested the seesaws uneasily. One criminal would push off the ground and suddenly find himself 15 feet in the air, while his partner on the other side of the seesaw descended swiftly to the ground. How strange, they thought. In the stands, thousands of Roman citizens were watching with curiosity to see what would happen next, and whether it would be interesting enough to keep them in their seats until the big show. All of a sudden, trap doors in the floor of the arena were open, and lions, bears, and wild boars and leopards rushed into the arena. The starved animals bounded towards the terrified criminals, who attempted to leap away from the beast's snapping jaws. But as one
like the rodeo event where they seesaw around the bull.
Yeah. But as one helpless man flung himself upward and out of harm's way, his partner on the other side of the seesaw was sent crashing down into the seething mass of claws, teeth, and fur. The crowd of Romans began to laugh, and soon they were clapping and yelling, placing bets on which criminal would die first. So, that's what would happen. That was like a tame halftime show.
Nice.
And that's a crazy halftime show. To just give these men this strange new contraption to send the guy opposite to you, like, back to the ground, knowing that once his weight's done, you're going down too. Like, it was a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, so he's surviving for like 10 seconds to see his buddy die. Then he goes down. He's like, was it worth it?
That was the thing with the Romans, and that was the thing with the bestiaries. They would build these contraptions that were meant to fail. You would think you're climbing up a box to escape the lions. You'd think you were climbing up a pole that was high enough to where they couldn't reach you, and then this device, this contraption would fail under you, and you would always hit the ground and die.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the spectators.
Yes, it's all about the spectators. So
the show. It's the show. The greatest show on earth.
Did spectators ever get injured?
I don't know. I don't have any stories of that, but I'm certain that spectators did get hurt because gladiators would rebel, and so would the slaves, and they would start to throw stuff at the audience. It didn't happen a lot, but there are stories where weapons would get thrown at the crowd. I don't think there are any stories of animals jumping into the crowd because the walls were so high, but it's possible.
That'd be cool.
I saw a gladiator throw a sword into the guy that was running the fight.
Are you not entertained?
Hail Maximus! Hail Maximus! All right, so all of Rome came to the games. The rich, the poor, men and women, children, the noble elites. They were all eager to be there and witness these atrocities. So there were people called editors, and they were the ones who basically made it the way the show went. Like you have an opener and you have your what do they call it in MMA where you have your smaller fights and then you have the big fight at the
your
end.
main event.
The title card.
So these editors knew how to run the show. So the games represented power, money, and opportunity, and politicians and noblemen spent huge sums of money on the games they sponsored in the hopes that they would sway public opinion, or courting votes, or disposing of any person or warring faction they wanted out of the way. So if you were high enough and had enough power, you could just say, that guy, next show, he's a dead man, feed him to the lions. So the more extreme, the more popular the games with the public. And the more popular the games, the more influence the editor could have. So because the games could make or break the reputation of the organizers, editors planned every last detail meticulously. So what everyone wants to hear about, though, is the spectacle that kept the Roman audiences in their seats through the sweltering mid-afternoon heat, and that was the freaking halftime shows where they fed people to animals. They had animals having sex with people. And then
the smell.
Yeah, it was probably pretty smelly in the grandstands. This was all basically called the Damnatio ad bestias, and this basically meant the condemnation by beasts. And so I'm going to talk about some specific events. So this started in 242 BC. And we want to say BC is before Christ, if anyone wants to know what BC stands for. So that means
before Common Era, Tyler.
I mean, it basically says that Christ was real, right?
What about before Christians?
Just yanking your chain.
So, two sons decided.
Domini.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Two sons decided to celebrate their father's life by ordering slaves to battle each other to the death at his funeral. So soon, other members of wealthy classes began to incorporate this type of slave fighting into their own menorah. So in 189 BC, a council named, doesn't matter, introduced an animal act that would see humans fight both lions and panthers to the death.
Oh, nice.
So then 22 years later, this guy named Paulus would give Rome its first beast act, damnation by beast, when he rounded up army deserters and had them crushed one by one under the heavy feet of elephants. They just strapped these guys down to the sand, sprawled them out, and then slowly fucking walked Dumbo right over their fucking asses. And Dumbo doesn't know what's going on. Dumbo's just fucking walking.
Yeah, he's just like,
he just wants some peanuts.
Yeah,
elephants like peanuts.
Elephants
they put peanuts like on the guy.
No.
big penis. That's what the elephants like.
So were the people laying down? Were they naked?
I don't know. I mean,
Probably.
I don't. Probably. But an elephant.
Maybe they weren't.
An elephant just gradually steps on them and then puts full weight on them, and it happened.
Would you rather be stepped on by elephant or blood eagled?
I'd rather be stepped on by an
Stepped
elephant.
on by an elephant.
Yeah.